Hey folks. Okay, I'm going to be talking about some Beatles here. Way back, I remember during my early part of doing this channel, I used to do a lot of Beatles stuff. I think I had a ranking of their albums, but what I'm going to do is today is I gathered up all the US albums plus the main albums and kind of rate them. Kind of rate not the cover, but mostly just the album, the songs we're talking. I was hearing that they're actually re-releasing the Beatles US albums in mono, because I know it's been many, many years ago since they did an actual set of Beatles, not on vinyl, but CD. There was actually a CD, before the US Beatles album box set from 2014. There was the US album, the Capitol albums, which was from like the mid 2000s or something like that. And it's been that long ago since they re-released those US albums. But this is actually going to be on vinyl. This is almost going to be kind of like a getting ready, if you will. But what I'm going to do is rate all the albums, the US albums, from 1 to 5. Now there may be possibly a low rating of one of these, maybe a few of these albums, but I'm always very, very upbeat about the Beatles, because I think the Beatles are just an excellent instrumental, not instrumental, but instrumentalists. Like John and Paul, and just their both writing abilities, and just the craft of the songs. As you kind of go through pretty much the beginning all the way to the end, let it be. But enough me talking, let's go ahead and get started, right? Okay, let's start off with Meet the Beatles. Oh yeah, and some of these I actually have on actual album, the actual original versions of these. Some of the early Beatles albums are finally good, and some of them are kind of, as we kind of go along here. But if I had to give the score of this album, I believe a 4. The reason being is that there are maybe 2 or 3 songs. I was never really a big fan of Hold Me Tight. I was never really a big fan of Little Child. Those may be the only ones that are holding back at the 5 scale, 5 rating. But yeah, pretty good album. Pretty good first album. Kidding me? That's the first U.S. album. If you're not counting Introducing, because Introducing was mostly just that VJ album. Okay, then the Beatles' second album. I do like the collage. I always love these U.S. album covers more than I think the UK, because you definitely get a variety of all the pictures of the guys. My rating for the second album, probably going to give it a 4. Another 4 again. Probably holding it back to being at 5, at the 5 rate. Roll Over Beethoven. Oh God, I can't stand anybody who covers that song, even ELO. You heard the ELO version? Anybody who had covered the ELO, or at least, even Chuck Berry. I know this is a Chuck Berry song, but this is probably one of his weakest songs, I think. I believe anybody who can cover this song it's never really that good. Devil in Her Heart. I used to kind of like that song, but that's kind of another down, a little bit of a okay song. You got Please Mr. Postman, which it's not a great song, but anyways, 4, maybe a 3.5, maybe. Okay, then the soundtrack to A Hard Day's Night. I do say I kind of like this counter version. Of course, this is the U.S. with the pictures on the back instead of the front, the multiple pictures of the band or whatever. To be honest, I'm going to have to give this a 5. The reason is because I do like the instrumental bits in the song. I do like Ringo's theme. I do like the instrumental of... I believe there's an instrumental of And I Love Her, I believe. Yes, it's the last track on side 1. And of course, it starts off with A Hard Day's Night. Fantastic. And side 2 starts off with I Should Have Known Better, which was actually the second track on the first side from the UK version of the album. Yeah, it's definitely very. I know it sounds it sounds a little cheesy, but of course, done by United Artists. So I do like this US version, maybe even a little bit more than the UK version. I know, I'm gonna get flack on that. Okay, then Something New. That's always cool, Dead Sullivan shot there. Now, some of these songs, believe it or not, now that want to tying in with the Hard Day's Night UK, there are actually I believe there are about 7 or 8 tracks from the UK A Hard Day's Night, and actually from the United Artists, because Capitol didn't have the rights to most of. I believe they didn't have the rights to most of the stuff from the United Artists album. And if I do have to give this a rating, I believe I would maybe give it a 3.5, and probably for that reason is probably When I Get Home, Slow Down, and Matchbox. Now, Slow Down and Matchbox were cover versions. I believe it was Carl Perkins, I believe, and I forgot the other guy, Larry. Forget his last name, but they did do a cover of one of his songs from I think it was from Help, I believe. But of course, Anytime at All. I love Anytime at All. That's really a great song off of the side 2 of the UK album. Things We Said Today. It's a very moody Paul song, and I love her, of course, definitely. In the German version of I Want to Hold Your Hand. So that could be a reason why I have this 3.5. There are a couple of ones I don't really care that much. And I don't know about this one, Beatles Story. I'll probably pass on this one. I don't know. It's not really technically an album, but it's kind of just like a document. Then we get Beatles 65. This was always a cool album cover with the different collage photos and stuff. It's just a simple, plain white. And if I had to give this a rating, probably give this, believe it or not, I'm giving this a 5. And I think this is a little bit better. I think this definitely is a little bit, to me, however, because it definitely has more stronger tracks than the Beatles for Sale. Of course, starting off just like Beatles for Sale is No Reply, I'm a Loser. Pretty much follows what that album, the UK album follows. And now I don't really care much about Mr. Moonlight, but because it's on Beatles 65, I do kind of seem to like it okay. It's never been a favorite song of mine. It was a cover. Just like Honey Don't. Everybody's Trying to Be My Baby, but I'm giving it a 5. I don't really care. I just love that reverb, kind of especially on Everybody's Trying to Be My Baby. Now, talking about Beatles 65, the Beatles for Sale album. This cover here was actually the back cover of Beatles for Sale. Now, this is the early Beatles, so this is kind of like the VJ and even the Please Please Me UK album. And if I have to give a rating, I'll definitely give this a 5. I definitely like the way they chose the tracks here, and the way it's arranged. Starting off with Let Me Do, what a great early Beatles song. Yep, and Twist and Shout. Oh yeah. Yeah, boys. A fun Wes Farrell song. Some great stuff on here. Do You Want to Know a Secret? Oh yeah, the early Beatles. Fantastic. And of course we get Beatles 6. It's another good early Beatles one. Kind of a little bit like the Beatles for Sale, a little bit. You got some of the tracks from the UK album. Songs like 8 Days a Week. I love that song. And Don't want to spoil the party, which I'm not really a big fan of, but yeah, I do like their cover of Words of Love. Disney Miss Lizzie. I don't know. I don't know why they seem to have that song on here. I have to give it a rating, probably a 4, maybe even a 3.5. I was never a big fan of that album cover, but whatever. Okay, folks, my phone is telling me that not my phone, but my camera's telling me that it's overheating, so I may have to probably end this. Maybe do a part 2. Part 2 will start with help. So I may have to probably continue this with my phone. But anyways, take care. Okay, bye-bye.